Welcome to Outside the Overton. Josh, we got a guest with us today.
I know, very special guest being with us here today, even though he's on every show.
At least every show that we do. But he is the guest today because he is the topic of conversation, Mr. Mitch McConnell. Dude, why are you not running for
Happy to be here.
Why are you not running for re-election? No, nothing. We froze up at the podium again. Well, I mean, that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, Josh, is Mitch McConnell is not running for re-election. I think we all kind of guessed that was the case.
In fact, he's not running anywhere. Last I heard, he was still in a wheelchair.
I think I have him in the wheelchair on the thumbnail on here. But yeah, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. I did see somebody create like a news account on Twitter the other day. Mm-hmm. And it was a parody account, and they put in a tweet and it said Mitch McConnell has died or something like that, and everybody was believing it. I mean, these guys are on the way out. I mean, that's the title of the day show, is out with the old, in with the new.
Yep.
Moving on to a new day. I mean, I guess you could call the Trump 2.0 administration a new administration. Mitch McConnell, he's definitely old, and he's out of here. So.
Mitch McConnell, he's from Kentucky, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Maybe Thomas Massey will replace him. Probably not.
I don't know. We'll see. I think Massey's got he might be a little happy where he is right now. He had a couple targets on his head not too long ago.
They're probably still there.
Yeah, but I guess he doesn't have anything to lose anymore. You know, they already took on all of the targets. It's just him left.
Well, does he have any kids?
I don't think so. But anyway,
keep a wary eye on Thomas Massey.
Let's take a look at Mitch as he kind of answers a question. Are you going to run for re-election?
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026? All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator Penny.
Okay. Mitch, would you like to respond or react to that one? You got any excuse for what happened there? No? Okay.
Didn't think so.
Didn't think so. We're freezing up at the podium again. But I mean, Josh, this is embarrassing. I mean, this is American politics. It's embarrassing. I mean, we saw this with Joe Biden, Mitch McConnell. I mean, it's all over the place. And they just need to retire. I mean, they want to wear out their welcome. I mean, you know, Rodney likes to talk about term limits, and things like this really make me think, you know, maybe term limits would be better.
It's conflicting. We've talked about this before, where basically you and I are in favor of like Christian nationalism. We're in favor of a more authoritarian society. We think that would actually be better for humanity. That would be a better America. Not saying get rid of voting completely, but in this case, I mean, the so-called elected leaders, they're milking this as much as they can. They're staying in office as long as they can. I kind of get it. I mean, it's not going anywhere, but I definitely think it would help to stop this from happening.
Absolutely. I got another one queued up. I think it's just Fox reporting the same thing. Let's watch this, and then we'll catch you on the backside.
We've got some breaking news. Former Senate Majority Leader and Kentucky Republican Mitch McConnell is not going to seek re-election in 2026. He's 83 years old right now. Right now, the Senate is voting to advance the nomination of Kash Patel for FBI director. Maybe we hear from McConnell on the floor in the midst of this.
I mean, 83 is crazy work, dude.
Yeah, dude. Look, not all 73-year-olds are created equal. Some lose a step, some don't. 83.
You pushing it.
You're
dude.
pushing it.
You're
man.
pushing it. But these same people that would champion McConnell would be the ones kind of saying, "Hey, Trump's too old." But see, this is where they kind of play that little hypocritical game. Chronic said they're little microstrokes. Yeah, I mean they're microstrokes, but he's been having them for 40 years now.
Well, yeah, and it's gotten to the point where I remember when Joe Biden ran against Donald Trump, Joe Biden would have these gaffes. He would have these freezes. He would do all this weird stuff. And I remember back then, I was kind of defending Biden. Like, obviously I don't agree with him, but I was saying, like, you guys are leaning too much into this. It's a big deal. Like, I don't prefer it, but it's not a big a deal as conservatives are making it out to be. But as that presidency went on, man, it just got worse and worse and worse. And even I was like, damn.
Yeah, it got worse and worse. I think Joe Biden ought to have had a couple strokes in there too. And the Democrats are known for strokes. I mean, look at John Fetterman. One of their forefront politicians right now is known for having a stroke, and actually, kind of helped him out on his politics there. Stroke did a little push right for John Fetterman. I do think going forward he is going to be a good push for, I would say, populism. I think is where he's going, and I think he might have been a little bit retarded up there, and the stroke kind of cleared that out, maybe kind of straightened him up a little bit.
I was going to say I'm fully expect someone like Bill Maher to make the joke, if he hasn't already, that a stroke or brain damage makes you Republican. That's what the left is going to say.
I mean, if you start out retarded and then you have a stroke, I mean, I don't know, but
I think you're right about Fetterman. I think, I know we're not exactly talking about Fetterman today, but he's definitely had a swing change. And I'm trying not to get too off topic about off.
Go for it. This is
off
a
topic
chill,
here.
This is a chill stream. We
we
didn't prep too much. I kind of got in here like 5 minutes ago.
I want to say this. I know
on.
you weren't saying this, but I'm just kind of saying this to the audience. I'm already vindicated on Bill Maher, where the conservatives, your average like boomer conservative, they were like, man, look, the left has gone so far that even Bill Maher's on our side. Bill Maher has already started to denounce Trump. He's already like in favor of trannies again. He was like, and he's saying is like, wow, no one can just be normal. No one can just be moderate. Like, I think it's weird to push trannies at all cost, but I do think that's a normal thing. Like, obviously there's a gender spectrum. Didn't take long at all. Bill Maher's already back on his old tracks. And so that's my main concern with conservatives. They're too eager to let the opposition in at the slightest chance of a mind change, which is always a rug pull. And 100% of the time, it's always a rug pull. So super off topic, but I just want to say that. A little bit of indication.
Well, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say it's that far off topic. I mean, we kind of got on Fetterman a little bit, but you talk about Bill Maher. We're talking about the Weinstein brothers. I mean, these guys are socially Democrat as they could be, and a little bit of a hiccup on disagreeing with some transgenderism, and now they're championed by the right. I mean, this idea of conservative being this large umbrella is destroying itself. The Republican Party cannot sustain itself in a big tent. And Fetterman is going to be one of those that, let's say, infiltrate and then destroy, the same way that Tulsi Gabbard is. Who else? Elon Musk. Who's the other names I'm thinking about? That were RFK.
RFK, yeah.
I mean, it's almost
those
half
are kind of the main ones.
It's almost half of the administration at this point.
Right. Which,
so like, how much power do we need to give them?
Yeah, and that's again not like we're already kind of off Mitch McConnell. Not totally separate though. It's like conservatives want to be liked so much, and what conservatives see, what I see a lot of is RFK Jr., who I do like. I think RFK Jr.'s got a lot of good things about him, but he's also got a lot of bad things about him. Tulsi Gabbard, she's got some things about her I'm not crazy about. But Republicans are so eager to be buddy, to not be like the old coots, that they'll let whoever in. That like that's why like there's no
well, they won't.
You know the term rhino.
Yeah.
No one knows the term dino because it's not a thing.
Well, I think. Kind of off the top, Republicans want soft power. They want this influence, but they never want to use hard power. And so why is that line drawn there? Is hard power bad and soft power good? Obviously it's not. The issue isn't the system itself. The issue is how you run the system and the principles and values within the system. And so you have those rhinos, or those coming from the Democrat Party, and those under this large umbrella that are more a populist, more a right economic and not necessarily right socially that are willing to engage in this soft power. And then you have people like Donald Trump that have the hard power and are using it right now, for better or for worse. I think, and the fact that that happens is this hard power that people like Mitch McConnell have, and they're dying out literally, is going to leave a void in the halls of Congress of who's going to take their place and have this hard power and wield it to the benefit of the American people.
Yeah, it's a matter of like the establishment. It's the establishment because the people in there are established, and you know it's going to be interesting. It's funny that the heir apparent to Mitch McConnell is not apparent. Which is exactly what we were critical of the boomers of, which is they're so concerned with what they can do and what they should do, and like only I can handle this, that they aren't thinking about the future. Now Mitch McConnell is geriatric. He's getting wheeled out of Capitol Hill for the very last time. I mean, you know, not literally, but like, and who's gonna? I'm sure there's, you know, people in Kentucky, but like the obvious sort of replacement for him isn't obvious.
You're saying there's no VP pick.
Basically.
There's no follow-on VP. I mean, you look at all the presidents throughout history, their VP essentially ran for president after their second term.
And even I would imagine, you know, I'm not in DC. I don't know personally the inner workings of it, but I wouldn't be surprised, you know, like all these networks are built like you know, like a spider's web, where it's like Mitch McConnell, someone like Mitch McConnell's in the center, and then it all trickles down from there. Now that he's out, I wouldn't be surprised if you see this sort of like scrambling effect where it gets a little bit chaotic. And you do see this. Like, I'm not saying Mitch McConnell's the biggest name there is.
It creates a void. And we were kind of talking about this on let's say, our movement, or the movement that we're in, is more decentralized. And it doesn't allow for that to happen, where if the head guy goes, everything else continues to run, where somebody like Mitch McConnell has been around for so long, it's just him at the top, maybe some puppet masters, but it's just him and his face, and there's no successor to follow. I think the decentralized movement that is coming now under the guise of, or not under the guise, but it is purely a nationalistic movement, has the benefit when it comes to those losing power. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, I get it.
Just a thought. But anyway, talking about people losing power, Zelensky is probably on his way out. Trump just said that Ukraine started the war. Zelensky doesn't want to hold elections because democracy bad or something. But he's been championed, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, Trump's actually been more candid than I would expect. I mean, I would imagine even Elon probably wasn't okay with him saying that. But because what it does is nothing of what he said is inaccurate. Ukraine, like people say, well, Russia, like I even heard on the you know, like Fox radio all throughout the day today, them talking about how Russia invaded. They invaded first. But if you actually rewind the clocks a little bit, America and NATO basically have been backing Russia into a corner since its inception. You know, like since the Soviet Union fell, we never really let up. And Ukraine, you know, there's a geopolitical structure to it where basically they block Russia from the Black Sea. You know, that Putin does not want NATO that close on their door. That's why they don't want Ukraine to become part of NATO. And Zelensky, who, as we have seen, as your average American has seen, and maybe they don't agree, but they've seen it, that he's like crazy. He asks for all sorts of like insane demands. He has no leverage, yet is barking and screaming and shouting his head off about freedom, blah, 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 all this, you know, propaganda garbage. But he basically, and he, before the war started, he was threatening to get nukes. He was like, the only way Ukraine can secure itself is with nuclear weapons. You don't say that if you're Ukraine. What does that signal to Russia? Literally, he said that, and I think it was like 2 weeks later Russia invaded. He didn't invade because Biden was president. Granted, I do think that like if Trump were in, it would be different.
Well, let me take you back a little bit. There was a coup in 2014.
Right. Yeah.
And so we can kind of start there. And so this coup was orchestrated by none other than the CIA. And so once they get their puppet in there, which is Zelensky, he got a little bit of power. He got to his head. Now he's making demands that he can't get, and it won't be fulfilled. But this coup allowed for all this to happen. Ukraine's push into NATO, or trying to forcibly be instituted into NATO, they never accepted. But it was purposefully because America agreed, or NATO agreed, which is a proxy state for America. America agreed that they wouldn't push any further east towards Russia because that would be seen as an aggression. Why would Russia want nukes, missiles, tanks, personnel sitting on their border? They simply wouldn't. So it's a border state for a reason, and it should be a buffer state.
Yeah,
and they shouldn't start a war for it.
Exactly. And this idea that kind of going off of that, what you hear from the boomers, what you hear from like conservatives, right-wing conservatives, and ironically enough, the liberals almost more, is that Putin is this expansionist, that Putin wants to reclaim the old Soviet Union at all costs. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. But realistically, is Putin going to do that? No. And they say it starts with Ukraine, and it's this trickle down effect. I'm like, let's have a little bit of a more nuanced view of the world, okay? Like you were saying, there was a CIA sponsored coup. This isn't a conspiracy theory. Like everyone knows this, I mean, maybe you don't, but Zev, you know a lot more about these kind of things than I do. And I know this, the CIA staged a coup. There was a pro-Russian leader running in 2014, and they overthrew him. And now, and that concerns Russia. There's a reason that the hawks want Ukraine. There's a reason that from all sides of the political spectrum in the United States, you've had a pro-Ukraine bent, because the establishment wants Ukraine, because they are deathly terrified of Russia. And what we would say is that fear is misplaced.
I think the fear is misplaced. I mean, is Russia a threat? I would say yes.
Of course.
But are they going to act on it? I mean, that would be absolutely retarded.
No.
I mean, nobody's going to actually invade or attack America directly. It's not going to exist anymore simply because of the power of our military. I think we should do a deep dive into the actual power of the military. Even if the entire military was transed, we would still decimate everyone on the planet at one time, simply because of sheer volume of destruction that we have. I mean, it's insane when you look at it. I think we have 16 aircraft carriers, 64 LHDs, which is a class slightly below that. I think the next is I think Russia has 3 or 4. I mean, it's not even close. I mean, that's just aircraft carriers. I mean, we have 4 times the planes everyone has. This is why we as America don't. This is why we donate military equipment. We just have so much of it, and this is where all the DoD money goes. It goes to defense contractors, which hopefully Doge will look into that too.
I doubt it, but hopefully
we'll see. But yeah, I mean, prior to the coup, Ukraine was an oligarchy, like many states are. And so the coup enabled a lever of the American empire into Ukraine on the border of Russia so that they could force NATO troops or U.S. troops on the border of Russia in case, I don't know, maybe we want to invade Ukraine or maybe invade Russia. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the plan is, but when Joe Biden says, I'm not going to really do anything if he only has a soft invasion of Ukraine, I mean, that allows Putin to do what he wills. I'm not saying Putin's a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a good guy. He's fighting for his people, which I wish a lot of our politicians would do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of jealous of the Russian people. They have they say, well, their elections are fake. It's like, dude, our elections are fake. The last election was fake. It just appears, it has the appearance of a good outcome. I mean, maybe you and I disagree on that, but nothing, like we said this before, nothing in politics anywhere on planet Earth is organic. It's all like spy games now. The post nuclear bomb world is spy games. It's all controlled. And I'm not saying it's like this Illuminati level of control where they have a crystal ball and they know everything that's going to happen, but it's all tactical. It's all manipulated. And Russia, at least their system is basically set up to where they can work on 100-year projects. China can work on 100-year projects that maybe the people aren't in favor of, but it'll help their descendants. The nature of our political system, which again is also controlled, but almost intentionally set up to fail, is designed like we can never do that because
There's no common goal.
there's no common goal.
And there's no common people
Yes.
because we've been infiltrated.
100%.
And because the system is set up like that, which is, again, why I am not necessarily for term limits. I'm not even for limiting years on serving, but in general. But that's a different discussion. I know authoritarian and dictatorship and
what I
monarchy
say-
are bad words.
Hey, Jesus Christ, we appreciate you coming down and taking over the government and making it a perfect world, but you're 73 now. You got to get out. Obviously, that's not who we're talking about, but but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just a state in general. Is everyone is for one thing and against that same thing in the same breath, whether that's democracy and then calling for Zelensky to not have elections. Yet we intentionally exported democracy for that point. And these are our enemies. They don't really care. They just want to get their solution. And so I say that we do the same thing. Stop caring what they say and just get done what needs to get done. It's quite literally that simple. Just do the thing.
Yep. And it's such a problem because tied
It's
into
so
all
frustrating, dude.
this, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing, like, this is something I was thinking about today where, I mean, we've talked about this plenty of times before, but it was just, on my other job, someone said something, a caller said something, and it made me just go, man, are we doomed? And it was basically along the lines of like, what they said is not what bothered me. It's like how they were saying it, where I just had this realization. It's like, man, the vast majority of people are not introspective. The vast majority of people don't, and it's kind of a bittersweet thing where the vast majority of people are basically pre-programmed to be programmed, to be directed, to be manipulated.
Well, they don't think past immediate consequences.
That 100% that, but I'm talking about like how people don't they don't even understand why they believe things. And I mean good things. Like a vast majority of Christians don't even understand why they believe it. Now, I would say they should, but they believe something that is true, therefore, it's good. But this is something that it's like, oh man, there's really no reason to get blackpilled about it because this is just a natural thing. Most people don't do this. I almost didn't do this. I had an experience that kind of led me down this introspective path. I'm sure you had something similar happen to you. It doesn't happen to everybody, and it could happen to some people, could not happen to others. But this is like that's how you and I, we didn't sit down together and figure out this view on Christian nationalism. We kind of came to it independently because we thought to ourselves, we grew up in a world that talks about the Constitution and freedom and liberty and the founding fathers and all this good stuff. And I mean good stuff. But when we're facing these new problems and and we're using the answers to old questions to kind of fill in the gaps, then we kind of have this introspect and go like, well, maybe that's not the solution. Maybe it's this. But it contradicts what came before. And some people, they just can't handle that. They can't have that.
Yeah, I like to reference John Ward a lot. He's a good friend. But he kind of recommended a book to me. It's called The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. And it kind of goes through the long history of what is consciousness, from, an awakening to a self-awareness to a true consciousness. And not, there's this trajectory of maybe there's a fourth, you could call it awakening. And so what you're saying is that people are not self-aware. They don't recognize that they can think through the problem on both sides, that they can argue for and against the thing. And so it's not something that you can learn. It's a happening, kind of like you said, there's an experience that comes. And I'll briefly touch on mine, because I remember it exactly. I don't know if you do. Mm-hmm. So when I was in the Marine Corps, I was 21. Well, I was 19 in the Marine Corps.
I was about the same age. It happened to me too.
I was 20. Anyway, sitting in this bunk bed with my buddy, Chilton, name drop him. What's up, dude? Maybe he's watching. Anyway, he was a little bit old, had a lot of life experience, and we kind of talked through some things, and it was almost like one night I just came to this realization that, like, I'm living in autopilot. Like, I can actually control the things around me. I can think through things and make a decision without going through autopilot. I can have full conversations in my head without having to ask somebody else and essentially game plan a process. And so that would be what I would call my self-awareness. But then a second, I would say, consciousness came when it's like, you ever drive down the road for a few minutes and then you kind of just not really doze off, but you can just kind of lose your mind.
I was literally thinking about that.
And then you're going down the road and a couple miles come and you come back too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that anymore. I used to do it a lot, but I don't do it anymore. And I refer to that as autopilot. You allow yourself to be in autopilot, and you miss time. Like, time just slips by. And what we're saying is, people like that, or you could call them NPCs. I think that's the most common term, but I feel like autopilot is more accurate.
Yeah, hopefully my mic came undone. I hope it wasn't unplugged the whole time.
It'll be all right. The people can read lips,
hopefully,
I guess.
Yeah. Because we could have got some good clips out of that. But yeah, basically, that's so funny. The driving thing, that's literally what happened to me too. Where I specifically, like, I was walking to, there were two experiences and they coincidentally happened on the same day, where I was walking to class, and it was about a 20-minute walk in the middle of winter up in Boone, North Carolina. It was cold. And I just I got to class and I thought about the walk over, and it literally felt like no time had passed. And I was like, dang, it's been 20 minutes and it felt like nothing at all. And I realized I was just not there. And I was like, good Lord, how long have I done that in my life where I'm almost not even a soul? Like, I'm not even a person, just like my body is what's doing the work, and I'm not even along for the ride. Like, I didn't remember the walk over. And then later in that class, I had I was in broadcast school, and we were watching an old movie called Fahrenheit 451 from it's based off a book, but the movie is from the 50s. And the scene they had was they were burning, they found a book stash, and they were burning all these books. And one of the books, this sounds kind of gay, but hey, it's what happened. One of the books was Charles Darwin's Origin of Species. And it made me realize, I had thought about my faith before. I thought about my Christianity before, and I had engaged with arguments against it, but it was always how do I disprove evolution? How do I know that God is real? Not really honestly engaging with it. And it kind of made me go what in my life do I actually know about? And that kind of led me down the path of, giving a Christianity a fair shake, really studying it, really investigating it, and really being, those two experiences, being thoughtful about what I was doing.
Yeah. Mitch, you want to tell a story about? No. Okay. But yeah, I mean, there's an awakening that has to happen, and it's not something you can do intentionally. It's something that just, like I said, it happens, and it's an experience. And once you get there, it's a realization,
right?
That change can happen. I don't even know where we were going with this. Oh, it's
back to Fetterman. Fetterman
Fetterman
jostled his free will for loose.
But yeah, I mean, it's like you're reading a book, man, and you get 3 pages deeper than you remember, and so you have to go back and read the same paragraphs again.
Yep. Been there, done that.
Anyway, I audio book now, so don't shoot me. I don't know. That's bad, apparently. What else are we having on the docket? Mitch? Oh, Cash Patel's supposed to be confirmed today. I think he'll get through. Shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, if Tulsi got through, then Cash Patel's getting through. I mean, he's Indian.
Yeah.
They're going to get him through. The cartels. Oh, is that your Cash Patel?
That's my Cash Patel.
What about what they call them online?
What they call him online?
I don't know. Can we say that on YouTube?
I doubt it.
I don't think so.
Hey, he said it in a congressional hearing, so we should be good.
Yeah. It was on Capitol Hill. It's in the public record forever. Why can't we say it?
But yeah. Well, yeah, Cash Patel is going to get confirmed, and then we'll have, I don't know, maybe he'll do something for the cartels. We'll see, but I guess we'll jump into the cartels. I mean, there's a lot of conversation going on about cartels this, cartels that. Sending in the military. The Mexican military sending 10,000 to the border. Dude, the CIA has been running drugs with the cartel since, Vietnam? Since the 60s? I mean, this is nothing new. We know this happens. We know that ex-infantry get paid off by the cartels to go operate within their ranks. I mean, I wasn't directly offered, but the opportunity was there. And so these people in the U.S. military, depending on your rank and depending on your billet, your position, whether you're infantry, whether you're officer, whatever, you're essentially offered as a mercenary to go be cartel members, to go run cartels. And so you get a boost in rank inside the cartel if you're prior military in the U.S. I mean, what is Operation Fast and Furious if it's not to run guns by U.S. military to the cartel? I mean, that's what they are. I mean, what is Las Vegas? I mean, do you think, I don't even remember his name now because he's kind of irrelevant in the whole conversation of the Las Vegas shooting?
Oh, yeah.
You remember the Las Vegas shooting?
No.
He had like 32 guns on him in the hotel room. It's like one dude didn't do that. It's obviously Operation Fast and the Furious, and then we can kind of speculate a little bit more. That's a real fun one. I really enjoy the Las Vegas shooting conspiracy.
Yeah, that one goes deep. That one is not simply. That's like who like. There's a lot of interest in that. But yeah, I mean, hashtag defund the CIA. You want to get rid of the cartels? Defund the CIA. They'll
Basically
disappear overnight, pretty much.
Well, they could probably operate themselves now. I mean, they have something sustained. But I do think I mentioned the mercenaries being there. I do think the way to get rid of the cartels isn't to send more military down there. The operation is to buy those mercenaries out. That's what they're getting paid to do cartel things. Just pay them more to not do cartel things, or give over the people in the cartel. I mean, it's that simple. These people are mercenaries. They're not Mexicans. There's a difference.
Yeah.
So that would be my take. I mean, we can send all the military down there you want to essentially kill them, but I mean, they're arguably they're just fighting for a living too.
I said this before the show, but do you think a guy named Pablo got Bill Clinton's phone number to run drugs to Arkansas in the 90s? Or does it run a little bit deeper than that? I think like the cartel has been able to basically outmaneuver the United States intelligence for decades. Is this because they're smarter than the CIA? It's because the CIA, like you were you were kind of hinting at it, but like straightforward, the CIA runs it. It's a intelligence operation, and it's not like they get checks from Langley in the mail. Like you said, it's basically I mean, there is an element to that,
I'm not saying they don't. I'm not saying they don't.
It's basically like a self-operated CIA asset. The CIA disappeared. Yeah, it runs efficiently enough that where it won't just completely collapse overnight, but it's gonna take a beating.
Yeah. Do I think we could fix the cartel issue with the military? Absolutely. I think there's more efficient ways to do it than risking lives. Just pay them off, dude. We're already forking out trillions of dollars a year. I mean, what's a couple million?
Well, it's like Mexico's practically third world anyway. How many warehouses are there?
Oh, they're on the way now. They're on the way now. They're getting all our third worlders back.
Yeah. That's how they're moving in the first world, is they're exporting all the third world elsewhere.
Speaking of that, I'm waiting on 100% remittance tax or 99.9 remittance tax. I mean, you can stop all the benefits you want in America, free benefits, but if you don't have a remittance tax, the economy's still going to suffer. They're going to stay here and continue to send the money back to Mexico because that's what they're here for. Benefits or not, you can cut off all the benefits. They're still going to stay here because the dollar is so much more valuable than whatever currency from whatever country they come from. They all have to go back, Josh. Every single one of them.
100%. 100%. This problem runs so much deeper than I think even Donald Trump realizes. Like we talk a lot about the cultural aspect of it. Like, what is all this immigration doing to the culture? What is it doing to America? What is it doing to the white natives of that built America? But even like this idea, it's like, man, you hear this from like kind of older conservatives is like, well, if they just assimilated, they're not even here to be here. Like, they come here to make money to send back home. And then when they're old and then their nephews are old enough to kind of take their place, they retire back home, back to Mexico. And they'll take whatever refugee
they leave their
status
children that have birthright citizenship, which is
Bingo.
why we get rid of birthright citizenship. And we make that retroactive for 4 generations. I mean, retroactive at least 4 generations.
If Donald Trump waved a wand and made it to where like everyone born since 86 was no longer a U.S. citizen just because they were born here, that would include me. I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with having to take the civics test to become a genuine citizen. Now, granted, I think I'm definitely like I'm 100% American.
You're not a birthright citizen, are you?
No.
Okay.
Like,
you just want everyone
I mean, like,
to
literally, like, let's have it to where everyone born here.
That's crazy.
That's extreme, but maybe it needs to be done. Maybe all the people that are here, even legally, that shouldn't be here, will go too if something like that happened.
I mean, we're talking about the cartel. The main reason to push on the cartel is drugs coming into the country. Why are we not fighting the fentanyl crisis at the Canadian border? I mean, we have Canada booing the national anthem at hockey games. We have Canada, I don't know, standing up like they have something, like we haven't been defending them for 200 years or whatever. They've been a nation. I
keep hearing people talk about Canada. What is that?
What's a Canada?
Yeah, what's that?
It's a hat you wear when you're the strongest nation on earth.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
It's just an accessory. It's an accessory at this point. But I mean, that a large portion of fentanyl comes from the Canadian border because we have no real presence there. I remember watching a documentary a while back about running weed when weed was still illegal in America. Fixed that one, prohibition on marijuana. But they were just saying that they could walk across the border through the woods because there's nothing there. There's no fence. There's no border. There's not even, I mean, they might have a little bit of a clearing, but there's nothing to stop them. So what's to stop them from running opiates or fentanyl or pills or guns or whatever? So let's get some troops up there too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I almost hate talking about Canada. They don't matter so much. It's insane. Like, I think like Mexico has a greater importance on the world stage than Canada does. Canada barely matters. And I guess that, like, you know, like you brought up the hockey thing, and I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but like you brought up the hockey thing, how they booed the national anthem. Who cares? Like, who are you? Like, I guarantee you you can probably recite the U.S. national anthem. I couldn't tell you. I know, oh, Canada. Like, I think that's like the one line in the Canadian. And I'm going to be honest, I think I was like 20 before I realized that other countries had national anthems. Like I was like, oh yeah, they pretend to matter too.
The only time they fly their national flag is in opposition to the United States.
Of course,
they don't fly their national flag in their other countries. They only fly it in opposition to the United States or at the Olympics, and that is it. Simply because they know that America is a nationalistic country at its core. Robert Brown's in the chat. He says Mitch is going out. Can I get an amen, Mitch? Anything from you?
Amen. Send him prayers. He's going to need them soon.
Yep. Chat, if you got any questions, throw them in there. We're talking about Mitch. We're talking about cartels. We're talking about, what I miss? What were we talking about?
I think those were the main things,
anyway,
to be honest.
but you said Mexico is more prevalent on the world stage than Canada is. This is obviously true. And they have 3 times the population in Mexico than they do Canada. Canada runs at like a $40 million person population, whereas Mexico's is like 130 million. I mean, the presence is there. I think we should give more credence to Mexico than simply to Canada, just because why not?
Yeah.
They do more. They make more. I mean, what do we import from Canada? Syrup?
No, I know. Like Canada is literally just North Dakota. It like what comes out of North
Dakota.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like what, like, and maybe I don't know anything about North Dakota, but that's kind of the point. Is like, do they do anything, or are they just our neighbors that happen to have a different national anthem?
Yeah, I don't know. People argue for a 51st state to make Canada 51st state. I'm gonna say no on that one. They can keep their Frenchies up there. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the fentanyl coming across the border. Canada doesn't have a cartel, not that I know of, and so there's no entity to attack. It just comes. It's decentralized, as we were saying earlier. But I do think the cartel needs to be taken care of. I would prefer just pay them off, as the mercenaries are. The military can do it, but there's no point in putting people, U.S. citizens and the military in harm's way. What else you want to talk about, Josh? I think we kind of knocked it down.
We kind of blew through those, but now I didn't send you the video in time, and it was kind of an off the spur thing. We can talk about the meter if you want.
Give me the rundown on this asteroid. You sent me. I watched like 20 seconds of it. This asteroid that's supposed to hit the world again. Like anybody cares about UFOs anymore?
Right. So basically, there's reports, which I like, and I said this to you before we started, and we'll get into it. But like, there's reports that in the year 2032, a meteor. There's I forget. It was like a 1 in 32% chance. That a meteor is going to collide with Earth. Now, this meteor is not a world destroyer. It would it's big enough to destroy. Like if it hit New York, New York's gone. It's basically a space nuke.
Can we get it to hit Canada?
I have a different idea, but basically. There's 2 things that are kind of interesting about this. Is they say 2032. I don't know exactly how accurate that is. This is actually something I heard on Nick Fuentes' show. He talks about like maybe it could be 2033. And if that's the case, kind of weird that there's a meteor supposed to hit and destroy a city-sized chunk of the earth exactly 2,000 years after Jesus Christ was crucified. Now, not saying that'll happen. Again, it's a 1 in 1.
2033?
Yeah, 2033. Interesting to think about. I'm not saying that's going to happen, and I think there's a chance. Like there's already a small chance that it won't hit us, and technology is being developed to prevent that kind of event. Which is
what kind of technology, Josh? What kind of technology? Could we call it Jewish space lasers?
Yeah. Okay. I figured that's where you were going, but I want to get.
I mean,
your
it
thoughts.
would be at that point, would it not? We're shooting Asteroids in space with lasers.
Space net. But so before I get into my like kind of theory about that, which I did mention to you beforehand, I want to get your thoughts on the Jesus angle, on the potential biblical prophecy.
Well,
angle.
I do have a position on this, and I have a book down here. I think it's over there. Anyway, it's called Revelation Deciphered. And basically, it takes a long route of identifying that creation is 7 days and tries to take that and decipher that against 1 day to God is like 1,000 years. And then it takes the Genesis 7 days into the Revelation of 1,000 years. And it essentially takes the eons of 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, 4,000 years. Christ comes, 5,000, 6,000, and this is we're coming up on the 6,000th year. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the assumption is that the world is 6,000 years old, give or take some change. If that was the case, year 33 would be that separator of the 4,000 year, 5,000 year, and so we're sitting on the 6,000 year, and following on is the 7,000 year. That's a lot to say. I think the Mayans also. A lot of these older cultures had something similar to where it was a longer eon, shorter to this point where we're almost reaching a singularity all at the same time. It's a lot to get into, a lot of detail, but to your question is, yes, I think something is coming, and it's coming very quickly. I said about 10 years ago, me and my dad kind of got in these discussions a lot of politics and religion and the world, and, is it going to end? Because everybody thought the world was going to end prior to 2000. And so these discussions came, and, I remember back in high school, this was been 2009, 2010, that I always said that if Christ comes back in my lifetime, it'll be within the next 20 years. And I still believe that to be the case. I think we're coming up pretty close. I'm not going to say that he is, but I said, if so, it's going to happen sooner than later. So to answer your question, I think something will happen. It's just too much going on too fast for it not to.
Yeah, and this is something because this is where you and I kind of differ on theology. I'm an old Earth creationist. I believe the universe and the planet are billions of years old. I believe in I'm a theistic evolutionist. I do believe that we did come from monkeys. We did come from fish. At least our bodies did. And
Josh, I think you're insane for thinking that. Anyway, we'll
that
have that discussion later.
We need a tiebreaker with Mitch, but
Mitch. Well, he looks like a turtle. He don't count. He's got.
Yeah. He's the missing link between man and tortoise. But yeah, so I don't have as strict of views on prophecy as a lot of Christians do. Because like you mentioned, this sort of 6,000 year time frame. That's not to say that there isn't a 6,000 year time frame. I'm not saying
I believe that specifically, but I do think it's coming to a head.
Yes, and there's things that happen that make me question my beliefs that the world is that not necessarily that it's billions of years old, but that like there's some validity to this 6,000 year prophecy thing where, I have these conversations with my dad a lot where he talks about biblical prophecy into days, all the stuff in Revelation. And I basically say it's our place to, like, what is Revelation really about? I believe it's here are the signs to look for, but why are we supposed to look for them? To be ready. Ready for what? For the end, for a deception, for our death, which is basically like, this is what the end will look like. But what we really need to do is be ready spiritually. You're going to die. Whether it's at the end of the world, whether it's of natural causes, you're going to die. You could die. We could die in a car wreck on the way to our next thing tonight, whatever it is. And we don't know. That's the point, is be ready. Don't put off salvation. Don't put off the Christian mandate. Don't put off God. So I think like I don't really get bogged down in the minutia of prophecy of the end times because it's going to happen. Either I'm going to ascend or I'm going to die and then ascend. So, but I can't deny the math of this event is, it makes me
I feel like this isn't new though. I feel like asteroid hitting the earth isn't new. I mean, we've been fear-mongered into these kind of situations forever, it feels like. I mean, every year there's some end-of-the-world event. And so, I mean, what is it? Just to push fear more?
Okay. Well, and now this kind of gets
I guess
into
this specific one,
yeah.
rather than the others. I mean, you know, we have this idea of UFOs and aliens coming to Earth, or that's a completely other discussion. You think there's aliens?
No.
Okay.
No.
Anyway,
I don't think there's alien life.
UFOs and asteroids. I mean, why are they pushing this asteroid? And it's still what you said, 33. So
32, 33.
Still a couple of years out.
Yeah, a couple of years. But basically, the theory I thought of, which, you know, conspiracy land. I think that I'm not saying that this asteroid doesn't necessarily even exist, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if they're fudging the data a little bit and they're coming out with this fabricated story about a meteor, not even a world-destroying meteor, but a city-destroying meteor, to get people invested back into space travel like they were in the 60s. Because, I mean, let's just be candid about it.
Josh, they would never fudge the numbers. They would never do that.
Right. But Elon, like or hate what he's doing in DC, I like it, but you can't deny that a lot of what he's doing is out of self-interest. He is deregulating the government, the aspects of or parts of the government that have regulated his business. And I do think Elon Musk believes in a lot of these crazy things. He believes in the Neuralink. He believes that you can upload your consciousness to a computer. But I do believe Elon wants to go to Mars. I do believe he wants to go to Mars, but I also think he loves these contracts. He loves these military contracts. He loves these satellite contracts, all the stuff he gets to do. And I think that if the people don't care, the people, like if you said, hey, we need satellites to spy on China better, the people aren't going to care. But if you said, hey, we need satellites to monitor oncoming asteroids, we need satellites we need rockets to be able to shoot up there and blow the asteroids off course, blow the meteors off course. I think once you get that narrative out there, the investment towards rockets, the investments towards SpaceX are only going to skyrocket. Absolutely, pun intended.
I'm looking for this. It was a tweet basically arguing that. Man, I wish I could find it. It was a book arguing saying when men want to go to Mars, they're just trying to get away and destroy humanity. It's not a it's not a preservationist mindset. It's not a conservative mindset. It's a progressionist mindset to get away from what is nature, what is human. And I think that's the embodiment of Elon. Elon is trying to run away through transhumanism or run away to Mars or whatever be the case. But let me see if I can find this image, and I'm gonna throw it up there because I thought it was very insightful. It might take me a second, but I really want to show you.
Sing us a song, Mitch, in the meantime.
Mitch, what do you think about all this?
He's not going to be here in 2033. He doesn't care.
But I think that's the point, isn't it? I mean, they aren't here for their forfeit. They don't want to take on the battles that need to be handled now, and so they leave the consequences for us. Is that not the boomer mindset?
The boomer mindset. Well, I think like, and we've talked about the boomers a lot. And I said this to you before the show. I feel like we need to ease off the boomers a little bit. We don't want to get labeled as the boomer bashers constantly. But I think it is kind of funny, the hypocrisy, basically the pick and choose aspect of boomers. You know, you hear, back in my day when people had to, you didn't have to pump your own gas. People knew how to work back then. And yeah, and I agree. Like, I'm not saying that society hasn't like had a subsequent fall since even the 50s, but like who's to blame? The people that were just born, or the people that were there for it, or the people that raised the children, or the people that taught in schools? Yeah,
I can't find this thing. I'll bring it up next time.
Bastard.
But yeah, but the basic argument was that people like Elon that want to go to Mars, start another colony, want to get away from Earth, what was created specifically by God for humanity. They want to escape, whether that's through Neuralink or to Mars, literally physically.
Yeah, you are right though about that. This sort of transhumanist idea, where basically, I remember seeing this was kind of before Elon became popular, or as popular as he is today. He had some interview where he was talking about, he's like, can you imagine how many? That's my best impression of Elon, but he's like, can you imagine how many Type 1 civilizations, which is like a made up sci-fi term, how many like civilizations died out because they didn't like invest in space travel? It's like, I can imagine whatever I want. There's like, that doesn't mean anything. This is like, it's like Michio Kaku. He talks about, he makes up all these sci-fi terms, and because he's an astrophysicist, I like Michio Kaku, but he just makes stuff up. It sounds cool, and he appeals to the unknown. That's the atheist secret card, is they can't appeal to when they can't appeal to what they love, which is concreteness, which is science, which is data. Well, they can appeal to the void. They can appeal to, well, what's past the light we can't see? Well, the answer to all our questions, of course, because even though we can see billions of years into the past, we can't find the answers to what came before. Why is there no evidence of anything before the Big Bang? Well, because it all got destroyed in the Big Bang. Well, you're assuming that a universe can be cyclical, that there's some type of force that would cause the singularity to expand. There's so many gaps in the knowledge, and I'm kind of going off on a Christian tangent now.
Go for it.
But basically, yeah, you're right. Where it's why abandon what we know works just because it's not as perfect as it once was? Yeah, there's a problem with pollution. I mean, absolutely. I'm not one of these boomers that pretends like, carbon emissions and dumping plastics into the ocean. Obviously, this has an effect.
Well, I would say that is the core of what is conservative. To conserve the tradition and slowly progress, not to rapidly progress into an unknown.
Yes.
And so, and for that case being made, I would argue that Elon is a progressive. He is unwilling to conserve what we know to be true in an attempt to progress past and through what is natural.
Yeah.
But here we are. We have him on the right. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree with this comment. Michio Kaku, or however it's spelled, he's a hack. He's almost as much of a hack as Neil deGrasse Tyson. Basically, these like science salesmen, they're kind of like Elon. Like, people think Elon's a genius, and obviously he's smart. I'm not going to deny that. But you can't. He's more like Steve Jobs than Nikola Tesla. He's a salesman. He's there. Yeah. And I'm not even saying there's someone behind the scenes. I think he runs his companies.
Well, a lot of these people have values that aren't aligned with Americanism, or especially biblical values, even though they'll claim something like cultural Christianity. Yeah, they're pro-natalist, but they're not pro-family. They'll go out and have 13, 14 kids, but they won't support them as a father. They'll support them financially. I mean, what's the difference between the baby daddies running around here and Elon Musk? Essentially nothing. They just want to go have kids because they're pro-family, or they're pro-natal, but they're not pro-family in itself. And so this lends to this idea of getting away from nature. Have all the kids, run away to Mars, implant Neuralink. I don't want to deal with being a human. I don't want to deal with being a father. I just want to give them money and run away.
Yeah,
that's my take.
Exactly.
And then he wants to run the everything app to have control of everything and everybody.
Well, and that's the thing is,
I'm Elon bashing right now, but he is doing a good thing with Doge. It is what it is.
I didn't watch it because I guarantee I don't have to. But there was some movie with Leonardo DiCaprio called "Don't Look Up," and it was about this. It was about like a meteor was headed towards Earth, and the goofy government, like the president was some like retarded woman, and the secretary, like Jonah Hill was the vice president or something like that. And it's all about how like the scientists are saying, if we don't do this, we're all going to die. And everyone is just like, like everyone's a retard except scientists. And that is basically like what Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michio Kaku believe. Like that's what Elon believes.
Who's Michio Kaku? The
He's that Albert
Japanese
Einstein
looking
looking
guy?
Asian guy.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He's on like The Big Think or something.
He's like, the stars are so bright. It's like, if you have a wormhole, it's going to collapse. He kind of sounds like Luigi, but but hey, the Japanese one, yeah. But yeah, it's like we talked about, like this focus on credentialism, and basically like science is an industry now.
Well, I was talking about science. I was watching a Jeff Nippard video earlier today. He's a science-based bodybuilder, and so I was watching a short. This thing was like 35 seconds long. He said science-based probably 18 times in this 35 seconds. It was insane. I was like, dude, what are you trying to do? All of these people is an appeal to credentialism. I went to school. I got my liberal arts degree from a bunch of progressive liberals. I can look at stars and say a thing, and now, since I'm Bill Nye famous, I can just say things and they're true. That's not how this works. You ever seen the meme of Bill Nye the Science Guy and Dolph Lundgren and their credentials? It's like, you don't really have your credentials, you just have a name. And I think a lot of times that's what these people do, is they have a partial credential, and then they have inflated egos. And so they just become talking heads, paid off plants, if you would say.
Yeah, I remember, like, I'm not one of these guys where I think that the IQ tests are like an absolute determinant, but like Neil deGrasse Tyson, it says he's like 120, which
really? That's a struggle, dude.
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't want an IQ drop over here, but it's
What's
pretty weak. Well, Mensa
know yours?
Mensa says 130.
I haven't taken one. I need to take that test. I took one.
Not saying I am.
A few years ago on my cell phone.
I'm smart enough to know that I'm not smart enough.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Like I took one and I got a 115, but I took it on my cell phone. It was free, and I half-assed it. I was like watching TV at the same time. So I assume it's a little, hopefully, like, or it's a BS test.
Chronic says last time he got checked, he got 144. Like blood pressure? You might want to get that checked again, big dog.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, I believe he liked my impression, so I believe this guy. Yeah. He's a genius. He could run circles around Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
And
we went through a long list. Mitch McConnell, anything to add before we try to close this thing up a little bit? No? Josh?
I mean, we covered a lot. I think it was a good show all around.
Well, we are live on most weekdays at 2:00 now. We kind of gotten into a little bit of a rhythm. We'll start working on some graphics, start working on getting some more videos, a little bit more prep work. I've been busy, but going forward, we'll shoot for 2:00 on probably these channels, and we'll start opening it up to some of the other channels. If you halfway enjoyed it, if you like the way I look and the way Josh sounds, give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll
that was a good one.
We'll see you on the next one. We will be here tomorrow. Rodney's going to be here, hopefully. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Hopefully talk about the Doge dividend. I mean, I would like a $5,000 check, wouldn't you, Josh?
Hell yeah.
All right, boys. Later.